Welcome to the Cabo Jewish Center's video blog, Torah portion of Noah. Before we begin, I'd like to wish a quick mazel tov to my dear sister Malka upon her engagement to Rabbi Hershcovich. Okay, now back to the Parsha. This week, the Torah discusses the story of Noah and the Great Flood, an entire generation of sinners whom God decides to bring destruction upon by a great flood that covers the entire earth. Only Noah, who was a righteous man that followed in God's ways, was saved from the flood. God commands Noah to build an ark, bring his entire family and all the animals for the duration of the flood, following which they repopulated the earth. Isn't it weirdly awesome that during the same Torah portion discussing the greatest storm and flood to ever hit planet Earth, Baja California gets rammed with Hurricane Paul? Fine, so the great flood destroyed all of mankind, and this hurricane did minimal damage. It went north of Cabo, and we only got the edges and the side effects of the actual hurricane. But Cabo still lost telephone and internet lines for a while. Yeah, and for some that's just as bad as dying. Nah, it wasn't that bad. Without internet and telephones, our locals were finally able to settle back and enjoy the pleasant flow of life, sipping on a cold Corona. Wait, our locals do that all the time anyway. But seriously, anticipating a hurricane is never a cup of tea. As soon as word spreads of the heavy rains coming, supermarkets are packed with frantic customers, purchasing canned foods, batteries, and any long-lasting items they can get a hold of, just in case the worst happens. The worst? Seriously? Will a pack of batteries, 70 cans of tuna, and 36 cans of sweet corn actually save you from the worst? Imagine what the lines in Walmart would have looked like just before the Great Flood some 4,117 years ago. The whole world would have been busy buying their non-perishables, their flashlight batteries, their gas stove ovens, while Noah would have calmly been knocking in the last few nails to his cruise liner called the Ark. While the world is busy worrying about how to survive in the water the longest, Noah is busy figuring out how to float above the waters. So what does the Noah story say to us in the 21st century? Water is the physical flow of the world. It is what nurtures and brings growth to all of the physical things in life. Water therefore represents the physical pursuits. Businesses, houses, vacations, what will the neighbors say, iPods, cars, retirement funds. These are the flood waters of our generation. Everyone in the world is faced with these same flood waters. Unfortunately, many people drown and become consumed in its raging force. The once great American dream has sadly turned into an American nightmare. Even many of those who have found financial success are constantly stressed out and struggling to stay afloat. They flap their hands in despair, trying to remain sane and civilized amidst a sea of hate, broken families, jealousy, debt, peer pressure, and of course, a future economic stability known only to God. So while they are busy stacking their cans of sweet corn and peas, the Torah is busy saving lives with its account of the story of Noah. Go out, get yourself a hammer and nails, buckle down, and build yourself a shelter that will stay afloat above all of life's turmoils. The ark in Hebrew is called a teva, meaning a box. The Hebrew word teva also means a word. Says the holy Baal Shem Tov, God commands each Jew to go into the teva, enter into the words of Torah. Allow those warm walls of Torah study to protect you from the violent hurricanes raging outside. No, not like that. Protection by studying Torah. The Torah is actually an incredible gift to the Jew. It truly creates a real protective shell around whoever studies it. While after just a short Torah class, going out into the world is a different experience. The outside pressures mean nothing. You are higher than the world. Indeed, you are floating on top of the waters. A very famous Hasidic Jew named Rabbi Mendel Futterfass lived several decades ago. Living in communist Russia as a Hasidic Jew, he was arrested and convicted of a most terrible crime, continuing to spread Judaism and Torah to those Jews who needed it, despite it being forbidden by the communist government. He was arrested and sentenced to long, difficult years of forced labor in Siberia. One day, while Mendel was busy doing his work, he was humming a happy Hasidic tune to himself. Another man standing nearby happened to be a very, very famous former doctor. Now, this man was a very well-known doctor in communist Russia. However, due to some conspiracy theorist crime that the government decided he had committed, he was also forced into labor together with Rabbi Mendel. The doctor looked at Mendel and asked him, "How do you keep so happy? Isn't our life here in Siberia absolutely destroyed? Everything we had before is now ruined and means absolutely nothing." Mendel smiled and replied, "You, my dear doctor friend, you had a wonderful life before, but everything was taken from you in one moment, and now you are just but a degenerate prisoner in Siberia. I, on the other hand, have been serving God before Siberia, and I'm still able to serve God now. So nothing really has been taken away from me. And that's why I sing." Begin building yourself your own ark of protection. Call your local rabbi and join in a Torah class. Add in your already established study sessions. You will be building your spiritual ark of protection against those floods of society. So comment, rate this video, subscribe, call your bubby and tell your lover, and have a wonderful Shabbat.
nafshi